Released in 2001, the Nintendo GameCube entered a console generation shaped by intense competition. Sony had momentum with PlayStation 2, and Microsoft was making a bold debut with the Xbox. Nintendo's console didn't offer DVD playback or built-in online features, and it wasn't trying to be a media hub. Nintendo focused on doing one thing exceptionally well, delivering inventive, highly playable games with a distinctive creative vision. While it didn't take the lead in sales, it became a platform where developers took risks, whether through bold visual design, unusual mechanics, or tightly engineered gameplay loops. The result was a library filled with titles that stood apart, not because they chased trends, but because they trusted in strong ideas and sharp execution. Today on Mike's Retro Gaming, we're revisiting the top 10 highest rated GameCube titles on Metacritic, excluding traditional sports franchises and re-releases. Back in 2002, Super Mario Sunshine arrived with the impossible task of following up the legendary Super Mario 64. Instead of following a familiar path, Nintendo took an unexpected direction, crafting a game that stood apart from anything else in the series. Set on the vacation-ready Isle Delfino, it introduced Flood, a water-powered jetpack that redefined movement and added an entirely new rhythm to platforming. Sunshine earned a strong 92 on Metacritic, but even at release, it sparked division among fans and critics. Some praised its ambition, others pointed to awkward camera controls and uneven level design. While it may not hold the same universal acclaim as its predecessor, Sunshine remains distinct for how completely it challenged expectations. When Super Smash Bros. Melee launched in 2001, it quickly became one of the most talked about games on the GameCube. The foundation was familiar, a crossover fighter built around knockback mechanics and platform stages. But this sequel introduced more characters, sharper controls, and a huge increase in modes and unlockables. It earned a 92 on Metacritic and found a place in nearly every GameCube collection. What stands out today is how seamlessly it accommodates different types of players. For some, it's a game about precision timing and frame data. For others, it's a chaotic match among friends, with Pokeballs and hammers flying across the screen. Few sequels manage to refine their concept this effectively, while still feeling as immediate and as unpredictable as the original. When SSX3 arrived in 2003, it showed just how much could still be done with the snowboarding genre. Rather than splitting runs into disconnected tracks, SSX3 introduced a single continuous mountain players could descend from peak to base. That design gave the game a natural rhythm, blending speed, exploration, and high-score chasing into one fluid experience. On GameCube, it ran smoothly and looked sharp, preserving the style and momentum that defined the series. The trick system was easy to learn but encouraged experimentation, and the sense of freedom across the open slopes still holds up surprisingly well. With a Metacritic score of 92, it remains one of the highest rated extreme sports games of its era. Few GameCube titles embraced atmosphere and experimentation like Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. While most of Nintendo's catalog leaned family-friendly, this psychological horror game took a far different route, using slow-building dread and narrative complexity to create something more unsettling. The Sanity system remains its most distinctive feature, disrupting the player's sense of stability in ways that felt both clever and disorienting. Its story unfolds across centuries, with a rotating cast of characters whose paths slowly converge in unsettling ways. Some of the moment-to-moment design hasn't aged as gracefully, particularly the combat, but the overall vision still resonates. Earning a 92 on Metacritic, the game was praised for its narrative structure and its willingness to push the medium into new directions. Viewtiful Joe didn't look or play like anything else on the GameCube. Wrapped in a comic book aesthetic and built around side-scrolling action, it blended humor, visual flair, and timing-based mechanics into something that felt completely self-assured. The game follows an everyday moviegoer pulled into a stylized action film, where he gains the ability to manipulate time through cinematic VFX powers. Those abilities shape the core of the experience, requiring players to think carefully about when to slow down, speed up, or zoom in to gain the upper hand. The difficulty could be punishing, especially in later stages, but the sense of control remained precise throughout. Earning a 93 on Metacritic, Viewtiful Joe stood out not just for how it looked, but for how confidently it committed to its core gameplay. In a generation where the GameCube often struggled to attract third-party support, Soulcalibur II stood out as a clear success. Known for fluid animations and deep weapon-based combat, the series brought its second sequel to all major consoles in 2003, but the GameCube version had a distinct advantage: Link, fully playable and surprisingly well integrated into the roster. That novelty did draw attention, but the game's 93 Metacritic score came from more than just a guest appearance. Fights had a rhythm to them, encouraging spacing, counters, and reading the opponent, rather than relying on fast button inputs alone. 2 decades later, it stands as one of the strongest arguments for how well traditional fighting mechanics can translate to a home console without compromise. Of all the changes Nintendo made to the Zelda formula during the GameCube era, none were as immediately divisive as the art style of the Wind Waker. Its cel-shaded visuals drew skepticism before release, with some players expecting a more traditional look after Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. But once the game launched in 2002, many critics and fans came around. Beneath the stylized presentation was a full-length adventure that retained the structure and atmosphere of the original series, while introducing new mechanics built around exploration and sailing. The Great Sea gave the world a sense of scale and solitude, and the expressive animation and art style added emotional nuance that earlier games couldn't match. With a 96 on Metacritic, The Wind Waker stood alongside the best-reviewed games of its generation. Here's a few games that nearly cracked the top 10 for GameCube on Metacritic.
Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone situated in northwest Raccoon City, where we are searching for the helicopter of our compatriots, Bravo Team, who disappeared during the middle of their mission.
Haven't found it yet?
No.
While The Wind Waker leaned into stylized visuals and a lighter tone, Twilight Princess took Zelda in the opposite direction. Released late in the GameCube's life in 2006, it returned to a more traditional art style and darker atmosphere that echoed Ocarina of Time. At the center was a dual-world structure, with Link shifting between human and wolf forms to solve puzzles and navigate dungeons. Some of its pacing and overworld layout feel more rigid today, but the high points still land. Twilight Princess didn't rewrite the rules, it refined them in a way that satisfied long-term fans and gave the GameCube one of its most substantial first-party adventures. With a 96 on Metacritic, the game was praised for its scope and dungeon design, both of which delivered on the series' strengths. By 2005, Resident Evil 4 marked a turning point, not just for its series, but for third-person action games in general. Moving away from the fixed camera angles and survival horror conventions its predecessors helped develop, it introduced a behind-the-shoulder aiming system that made every encounter feel more deliberate. As a result, combat was more responsive, and the variety of enemy types and set pieces gave the game a constant forward push. On GameCube, it ran remarkably well, with visuals and performance that made it one of the platform's most technically impressive releases. Many of its design choices have since become genre standards, but even now, the original holds its ground. Its 96 Metacritic score reflected not just innovation, but execution. Translating a beloved 2D series into 3D is rarely straightforward, but Metroid Prime made the transition look effortless. Released in 2002, it reimagined the series from a first-person perspective without sacrificing the core elements that defined it: atmosphere, exploration, and isolation. Rather than go for the traditional shooter pacing, the game focused on scanning, platforming, and gradually unlocking the environment in classic Metroid fashion. Talon 4 was dense and interconnected, encouraging backtracking and curiosity, with upgrades and secrets tucked into nearly every corner. The interface, including a minimal HUD and visor-based interactions, pulled players deeper into the world without relying on exposition. With a 97 on Metacritic, Metroid Prime is the highest-rated GameCube game on the system. Hey, Mike here. Thanks for watching the video. Since you've made it this far, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. New videos are always getting released. If you're ready for more, check out the 2 links to sate your appetite. Until next time.